The second book of the Kings, chapter 1. Then Moab rebelled against Israel after the death of Ahab. And Ahaziah fell down through a lattice in the upper chamber that was in Samaria, and was sick. And he sent messengers, and said unto them, Go inquire of Beelzebub the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover of this disease. But the angel of the Lord said to Elijah the Tishbite, Arise, go up to meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say unto them, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel, that ye go to inquire of Beelzebub the god of Ekron? Now therefore thus saith the Lord, Thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. And Elijah departed. And when the messengers turned back unto him, he said unto them, Why are ye now turned back? And they said unto him, There came a man up to meet us, and said unto us, Go turn again unto the king that sent you, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Is it not because there is not a God in Israel that thou sendest to inquire of Beelzebub the god of Ekron? Therefore thou shalt not come down from that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. And he said unto them, What manner of man was he which came up to meet you, and told you these words? And they answered him, He was an hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins. And he said, It is Elijah the Tishbite. Then the king sent unto him a captain of 50 with his 50. And he went up to him, and behold, he sat on the top of an hill. And he spake unto him, Thou man of God, the king hath said, Come down. And Elijah answered and said unto the captain of 50, If I be a man of God, then let fire come down from heaven, and consume thee and thy 50. And there came down fire from heaven, and consumed him and his 50. Again he sent him another captain of 50 with his 50. And he answered and said unto him, O man of God, thus hath the king said, Come down quickly. And Elijah answered and said unto them, If I be a man of God, let fire come down from heaven, and consume thee and thy 50. And the fire of God came down from heaven, and consumed him and his 50. And he sent again a captain of the third 50 with his 50. And the third captain of 50 went up, and came and fell on his knees before Elijah, and besought him, and said unto him, O man of God, I pray thee, let my life and the life of these 50 thy servants be precious in thy sight. Behold, there came fire down from heaven, and burnt up 2 captains of the former 50s with their 50s. Therefore let my life now be precious in thy sight. And the angel of the Lord said unto Elijah, Go down with him, be not afraid of him. And he arose, and went down with him unto the king. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Forasmuch as thou hast sent messengers to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, is it not because there is no God in Israel to inquire of his word? Therefore thou shalt not come down off that bed on which thou art gone up, but shalt surely die. So he died according to the word of the Lord which Elijah had spoken. And Jehoram reigned in his stead in the 2nd year of Jehoram the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, because he had no son. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaziah, which he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Very often when a ruler dies, one of the areas or some of the areas that he conquered will rebel. And we see that what happened here with Moab. Now Moab was the territory east of the Dead Sea, and the Moabites were descendants of Lot, as were the Ammonites, who were also over there, but the Ammonites were a little further north. And the fellow who was the head, the king of the Moabites, whose name was Mesha, M-E-S-H-A, and he was so proud of the rebellion of the Moabites against Israel, David had conquered that area, and that area had gone as the possession of the northern tribes. And so Ahab was actually king of Moab as a dependent territory. But Mesha was so proud of the fact that they gained hundreds of villages and towns as part of their rebellion, that he actually had a rock carved with the story of it on there, and archaeologists have actually found it, and they know far more about Moab and how many towns they added and where they were and all the rebellion information than is recorded in the Old Testament here. We deal with another thing called the Beelzebub, which basically translated means Lord of the Flies, which is an extremely derogatory statement. Beelzebub was the name that the righteous Jews gave to the unrighteous Jews' god, which was Baal. They called him Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, basically indicating that that kind of stuff which attracted flies was the kind of stuff that came from Baal. We'll just sort of leave it at that. The ancient Jews accused Jesus Christ of being a form of Beelzebub and using the powers of Beelzebub to cast devils out of people. Just show you where their thinking was coming from. Elijah was called a hairy man, and that could have meant one of two things. It didn't have anything to do with body hair, but it would have meant that he was wearing either a camel skin or a goat skin garment, or that he had on him a skin that had hair on it, fur on it still, and that was, he was a hairy man. A lot of times the word hairy man would have stood for, been understood to mean in Hebrew that he was a holy man, and because, like John the Baptist, who had his own skin clothing and stuff, these guys would go into the wilderness. They would live on locusts and wild honey. Their circumstances were pretty rough. These guys did not live in settled towns with all the nice things that the kings had. Their life was pretty rough. And the skin clothing, the camel hair and the goat hair clothing, it was rough, but it lasted. They didn't have to replace it very often, so that was an important thing. Last but not least, we come to the point here where sometimes Elijah is criticized because people think he, quote, Elijah, killed these 2 captains and their 50 soldiers. But Elijah didn't kill them. And this is another one of these things where you've got to be careful that you don't assign motives and powers to people that don't have them. Now, Elijah was a prophet of God, but he could no more call down fire out of heaven to kill the soldiers than he could call down fire out of heaven to burn up the sacrifice. He had to pray and ask God if God could do it. And since God does not do anything that's inherently wrong, since we don't know all the story about these men and how they were and why they actually, we know that they went to get him, but whether or not they would have harmed him in the way, it was a decision by God, knowing who these individuals were, what was in their hearts, to decide whether or not he, God, would eliminate these, because it was as impossible for Elijah to call down fire from heaven on the soldiers as it was impossible for the soldiers to call down fire from heaven onto Elijah. Just wasn't going to happen. God is the one who had to decide whether or not anything was going to happen. And he did. And it happened twice. And then the third man, who was the captain of the 50, goes to him and he humbly says, please, I don't want to die, thank you. I know what's happened to the other 2 guys, and, I would not like that to happen to me. He shows respect to Elijah. And the Lord says to Elijah, to go with this man. And then he gets to go with him, and he gets to meet the king and tell the king more stuff that the king doesn't really like.